Let's build a home gym to get you spiritually fit. Welcome to episode 2 of our video teaching series, Another Step. And in this series, we're actually developing sort of a field guide for how you and I can get in the best spiritual shape of our entire life. And so today, we're going to be talking about how to build for yourself a spiritual home gym to really improve and stay healthy when it comes to your spiritual fitness. Now, in order for us to stay on the same page here, there's a couple terms, some vocabulary words that we need to agree on and understand in order for this to make sense. And the first one, I'm going to use some of my boys' mega blocks. The first one we're going to use is this word right here, the word Christian. You might be surprised to know that this word is only found 2 times in the Bible, both in the New Testament, once in Acts chapter 11 and a second time in 1 Peter chapter 4. Christian actually shows up as the Greek word Christianos, which literally means this term right here, a follower of Jesus. In fact, the first time this word shows up is in the book of Acts, chapter 11, verse 6. And that verse says the disciples were first called Christians at Antioch. And this is a huge verse because it links together 2 words that were always meant to be synonymous and interchangeable and never to be separated. And that is the word Christian and this word, the word disciple. So I'm going to put that right here. And I want you to start seeing the relationship between these words. The Bible tells us that every Christian is a follower of Jesus. To be a Christian literally means a follower of Christ. But also that at Antioch, the disciples who were followers of Jesus, that's what a disciple means, a student of or follower of Jesus, were called Christians. So every Christian is a follower of Jesus and every disciple is a follower of Jesus. All these words are linked together. And last week, we talked about the primary activity of all disciples. What do disciples do? Disciples are people who make a lifelong commitment to this, to spiritual fitness. So let's put this all together into one statement. Every Christian is a follower of Jesus or a disciple who lives out a lifelong commitment to discipleship or spiritual fitness. Another cool thing about using this model as a visual is it answers the question, how does a Christian get spiritually healthy or spiritually fit? Well, the answer is just by taking a step. You take a first step, and then another step, and a next step, and another step. And a disciple is just simply somebody who has made a lifelong commitment to taking spiritual steps. They're always taking another step in their spiritual fitness journey. You've heard me speak before about all of the various similarities and parallels between training physically and training spiritually. However, there's one major difference between spiritual training, spiritual fitness, and physical training and physical fitness. And the difference between the two is what you and I want to see when we look in the mirror to assess our progress. When you're trying to get physically fit, we use the eye test usually, don't we? We look in the mirror and what do we want to see? With physical training, when we look in the mirror, we want to see the best possible version of ourselves. You want to see a slimmed down body. You want to see ripped abs. You want to see big muscles. You want to look younger and more fit. However, with spiritual training, when we look in the mirror, we don't want to see ourselves at all. With spiritual training, when I look in the mirror, I hope to see less of me and a more accurate echo and reflection of Christ. That's the main difference between these two, is what we want to see when we look in the mirror. All right, let's start building that spiritual home gym that we were talking about earlier. And to do so, the way I'm going to teach this to you is by taking maybe some physical fitness terms that you're already familiar with, and I'm going to apply them to your spiritual fitness as well. You need a place to train, and every disciple, if they're going to build a gym for themselves, there's 4 pieces of equipment or 4 stations you've got to have in your spiritual gym if you're really going to develop into the image of Christ. Moments, disciplines, relationships, and spiritual gifts. Odds are, if you've been following Christ for any length of time in your life, you've probably already experimented with or hopped onto at least one or more of these pieces of equipment. But just for the sake of keeping us all on the same page, let me give you a brief definition and explanation about each of those 4 pieces of equipment and how you put them to use to become more and more and more like Christ. When we talk about having moments in your spiritual gym, what we're really talking about are specific experiences when God communicates to me in unmistakable ways. It's really all about learning how to recognize and locate and hear from and connect with and everywhere and anywhere God in every and any environment and situation. There's all kinds of moments. There's God moments, there's gospel moments, and sometimes these are really epic, memorable moments, like when you're saved and when you're baptized in water, when you have a really deep, meaningful experience in worship or someone prays over you. In the Bible, you have some of these big, epic moments, like what the shepherds had in Luke chapter 2 when they're at work and out of the blue, the angels show up and talk about Jesus. Other times, recognizing these moments in our life happen in more subtle, everyday, ordinary ways, kind of like what Jacob had in Genesis chapter 32 when he recognizes after a camp out, he says, man, God's presence was in this spot for like the last 24 hours and I haven't even realized it for now. So every disciple in their gymnasium learns to exercise finding God and gospel moments in their everyday life. Another piece of equipment in the gym of every disciple is the word disciplines. As a matter of fact, the word disciple comes from the word discipline. And I realize that particular word isn't the most warm, fuzzy word that's out there, but it's a great word. But maybe another word that we could use right alongside it is exercise. When we talk about spiritual discipline in our gym, what we're really talking about are the exercises that are found in the Bible that promote spiritual health and growth. It's things like how to study the Bible. It's things like prayer, personal worship, giving, serving, confessing, forgiving. It's the activity and the exercises that disciples do on the daily basis, which develops their spiritual life and moves them more into the image of Jesus Christ. A third piece of equipment that every disciple has in their gym is relationships. What we mean by that, it's people. It's specifically the people that train you, the people that are training alongside you or with you, and the people that you're training. And the model we get in the New Testament is Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy. We all need someone who's like a Paul to us, somebody that we trust and turn to help train us spiritually. At the same time, we all benefit from having a workout buddy, somebody who's kind of at the same place we are spiritually that's training alongside of us, like a Barnabas. And then we're also expected and mandated and equipped by Jesus to have at least one person in our life who would look to us as someone who could be a spiritual trainer to them. So every disciple has relationships in their spiritual gym. The final piece of equipment I want to encourage you to build into your at-home spiritual gym is the place of spiritual gifts. If you really want to exercise your spiritual gifts, what we're talking about is using the unique equipment that God has given you to bring His presence into the life of someone else. The Apostle Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7, that the Holy Spirit has given every one of us at least one spiritual gift. And there are dozens and dozens and dozens of different gifts that God gives out. But Paul tells us in that verse that the reason He gives us spiritual gifts is so that we can help each other. One of the ways I like to say this is that using our spiritual gifts is God working in you and with you to get His presence through you and into the life of someone else. Okay, we're out of time for today, but before we leave, I want to give each of you a challenge to start on your fitness journey today. If you consider yourself to be more of a spiritual beginner, I want to encourage you to set a God appointment for tomorrow and keep it. If you consider your spiritual fitness to be intermediate, I want to ask you the question, which of these 4 areas is your strongest? Which is your weakest? And then I want to encourage you to hop on your strongest station for the next few days and string together a few solid workouts to build some momentum for developing some of your weaker elements later on. And then finally, for those of you that consider yourself to be at an advanced spiritual fitness stage, I want you to hop onto the most neglected piece of equipment in your spiritual gym, and I want you to exercise some of those atrophied muscles. Look forward to talking to you again in episode 3.